Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wanted to share with you today the etiquettes of handshaking. I have my good friend here, Jawad, and I'm going to demonstrate some ineffective handshaking and some common handshaking and some good handshaking. Handshaking is one of the earliest human interaction. Two people met in the Savannah desert and they would greet by shaking the hand. And by shaking the hand, it would be a sign that, look, I'm not hiding any weapon behind me. My hand is open. I have nothing on my hand. And you shake hand, you connect, and two people touch each other for the first time. And it's a way of saying, I trust you. A way of saying that I'm communicating with you. It's a way of saying that, that there's love as well. And so, handshaking varies from culture to culture. So it's not, same across the board. First thing first, you have to know where you are. So, if you are in Utah and you have the Mormon handshake, right? Very vigorous. How the heck are you, right? And it's very vigorous. Or if you're in South America, the handshake could be much more light. And it might not be a handshake even. You go to Middle East, it could be a kiss in the cheek. Even in Latin America, it could be a kiss in the cheek. And so it varies from place to place. Even in sports culture, right? So you're at a sporting event, you don't necessarily shake hands. It could be just pumping your fist. It could be a high five, right? It can really vary. So it's about knowing where you are. That's very important. Now, for sure, a handshaking is something that even Prophet ﷺ and Abu Dhar narrates that we never met the Prophet ﷺ except that he would shake our hand. Right, and hadith is, if you shake the hand of your brother and your sister, Allah forgives your sins, right? So definitely, and interestingly enough, scholars even have a lengthy discussion about how the person shakes hand, because according to the Hanafi fuqaha and the Maliki fuqaha, the shaking hands should be with two hands. You often will see this, right? Like the Muslim handshake, right? So both hands. But scholars disagree on this, and regardless, again, it's about the culture. So in the U.S., especially in the West as well, shaking hands with both hands like that is actually not, people don't like it. They call it the political handshake, right? It's because you have to earn enough right to be able to do this. You just don't go up to a random person for the first time. You go, in this culture, people doesn't like it. Now, obviously, in the Muslim community, in the masjid and so forth, it's very common and it's totally accepted. So again, you have to know even where you are and what day and time it is, for you to do your handshake. So definitely, to begin with, you want to make sure that you don't do the weak handshake. The weak handshake is like this. So you barely touching and this, and you're just like, ineffective and unsure of yourself. That's the weak handshake. You definitely don't want to do that. Typically with the handshake, you want to be able to be gentle, at the same time be firm, right? And it's a teamwork. So when I shake his hand, I'm going to put enough pressure by feeling how much pressure he's putting, right? And then also be able to look at him. So a good handshake involves being able to look at the person and look at the person's eye long enough to be able to see their eye color, the color of their eyes. And memorize the color of their eyes. That's enough. Now you don't want to stare for a long time. That's also not effective, and people might freak out. So you want to shake hand. You want to look, and you want to just be able to have that eye contact. And it's also important for you to be in a good state, right? So when you are greeting someone, shaking hands with someone, whether it be at work or when you come home or at a social gathering, when you're shaking hand, you want to make sure that you're shaking hand and you're in a good state. So it's not just techniques. So we could talk about different techniques and tips on shaking hands, but it has to come from the heart. So deep down in your heart, when you meet people, whether you know them or not know them, or whether you're having a problem with them or not having a problem with them, if you're going to shake someone's hands, come from a good place. So deep down in your heart, you have to come from a place, I'm glad to see you, I'm happy to see you, I'm happy that we're shaking hands, and I'm glad for this welcoming attitude. And so you want to be able to have that in your heart, deep down in your heart. And if you hate the person and you're shaking hand, just find a place in your heart to find some good spirit, and then shake the hands with genuine smile, with genuine effort, and look at the eyes. And also your other hand, make sure it's nice and open, right? So you don't want to have your hand just on side and shake hand this way or congested. You want to have nice and relaxed and as you shake the hand. Now, there's something very interesting. The studies have shown about how to increase the bond when you're shaking hand. And the studies have shown that if you can touch somewhere in the upper region of the hand, it's really effective. The study shows, researchers were out in the street asking people, "Can you give me a dime? Can you give me 25 cents?" And when one group, they just did the regular handshake. "Hey, how you doing? Do you have a dime? Do you have 25 cents?" Another group, they did this, and then they did this. First the handshake, and then they said, "Can you give me a dime?" People might not notice you just touch their hand with the other hand, on anywhere on the top part of the arm. They might not have noticed that, but because you touch, it automatically builds an extra bond, right? Oftentimes you will see politicians and leaders, charismatic leaders, they'll do this all the time. You'll see them. They'll shake hands right away. They would, they'll put the hand on top. It's a way of putting extra touch. And it really helps someone. Now you don't want to do this, that's not good. Especially in some cultures, touching on the neck like that actually is very offensive. And some cultures is totally cool, and some cultures is not. So it really depends. You have to know where you are and who you're doing, shaking hands with. And definitely don't want to go that aggressive with me for the first time. Now it's very different if you're hugging, very different if you're with your friend and you're doing all kind of moves with your gang moves. That's a whole different business. But in a regular handshake, you just want to shake the hand. You want to be able to look at the person, and then you have to be able to put that genuine smile, as you're doing it. And so one thing to note here is that some people do suffer from hyperhidrosis. And that's having sweaty hands, right? Sweaty palms, and that's 2.8% of the population in the U.S. suffer from sweaty palms and wet hand. And so for you guys, if you do suffer, and I know most of you who have issue with your hand being wet and so forth, you avoid handshaking at all costs. You avoid situations where you have to shake hands, like some of us, when we're trying to avoid shaking hands with non-mahram maybe, you try to find, so some people who have wet hands, they almost do that. They avoid at all costs trying to, shake hands. But for you, really, there are medical solutions. I know there are these herbal guys that talk about all sort of stuff, and naturalists, but there are solutions, medical solutions, like Botox and things like that. But if you don't want to go that extreme, and maybe you shouldn't, perhaps just carrying something with you, like a napkin, like some kind of cloth, and you keep it with you. And before you shake hands, you just wipe your hand, and then you shake hands, and it's not a problem. You're not gonna be leaking, water, and so that it's gonna be all this. No, if you can just wipe it right away and just shake hands, then it'll be okay. And so that's very important. So making sure, just very very simply, don't have a weak handshake. Don't have a super strong handshake unless you're in Utah and you're shaking hand, doing the Mormon handshake. You wanna have nice soft handshake. It's a teamwork. You wanna go by their level and put the same amount of pressure. Now, how far you should be from the person? If you don't know the person too well, you should be a little more far from the person. If you know them really well, you're gonna be really close, and obviously if you know the person really well, you end up hugging anyways. But if you don't know the person too well, you wanna give them some space. Because the space also varies from culture to culture, right? How far you should be from the person really depends. If you in America, you are in the UK or Australia. I mean, if you're lining up, you see a lot of people, a lot of space. If you're in the queue or in line, you have a lot of space. But you go to some other parts of the world, people just like next to each other, and there's no problem with that. I mean, you go to some parts of the world and you're lining up for a bus, or people just like on you, and that's totally cool. So even it's called the proximity space, and that space really varies from culture to culture. But if you're meeting someone for the first time, you want to give them enough space so that you want to see how far they come, and you can actually tell how well they're connecting with you by after you shake their hands and you give them some space. See how do they come closer to you, or do they go far? Then actually that me coming closer and me saying, okay, my vulnerable organs, my body, and me am coming closer. I feel safe enough. I don't feel threatened. But if they back up a little bit, they don't feel as comfortable with you. That's a good telltale sign, right? So when you're shaking hands, come in a little close, shake the hand, and then give them some space and see what they do. If they come close or they go a little far. So then you can judge their level of proximity, how much space they think they want. And you might realize when the conversation starts getting better, people start moving closer and closer. And so that's what typically happens. So you want to be able to have a gentle and firm handshake. Look at the person, and and very important. When you're shaking hands, again, full. Just very simple. Your thumb here, politicians and leaders sometimes they sort of fight over who's going to be on the left, who's going to be on the right, because it's also like a power thing, right? So if you're on the right, you tend to be more power than if you're on the left, and so you will see people, politicians. If you ever watch, presidents shake hands, they fight to be on the right side, not on the left, because there's a whole power thing. You look like you're more in charge, and oftentimes if they're on the left side, what they would do is they would do this, because that's the way of saying I'm still in control. Now, don't do it for that reason, but it's more for just building that extra comfort with the person. So you smile, you look, and you shake hands, and that's a standard of etiquettes of shaking hands. Hope that was helpful. And next time you're shaking hands at work, at school, shake with teamwork, smile, and with care.